Welcome to the Vanderbilt Entrepreneurship Conference. I'm Justin Ishbia, Managing Partner of Shore Capital Partners. Shore Capital Partners is a private equity firm based in Chicago with an offices in Nashville as well. You see this page, my wife, Kristen, my two sons, Jack and Teddy, and our dogs, Sheffield and Walton. I'm really excited to share with you my experiences from Vanderbilt Law School to being a private equity investor. My goal for today is that you can write down one or two things and apply in your life in the future some of my lessons I've learned over my career at Shore Capital. As we turn to page 3, I want to share with you about launching the venture. It's not about overnight success. Oftentimes there are outliers out there that we read on Twitter or on Instagram of someone had tremendous success out of the gate. The best path to success is doing the right things over and over again for decades in a row. It's helped to have a vision of what you want to be and provide a roadmap for yourself. When I was a young man in late high school, my best friend's father was in the private equity industry. He shared with me his journey and said, no, if you want to get into private equity, here's the path. He said, you have to go to a great undergrad. You have to go to investment banking. After investment banking, you go to a private equity firm. From there, you go back to a top-notch business school. And from there, you come back to the private equity space. That is the path to private equity. And when I launched Shore Capital, it was really important to think about where I was going to go for the long term. But at some point, when you're starting out in the early days, I really believe it's important to write down what you want to do. And the class here at Vanderbilt, launching the venture, which is now taught by Michael Burcham, was a pivotal moment as I built Shore Capital. It's where I wrote the business plan and where I thought about the pros and cons of my business model and got pressure tested by professors and peers alike. I really encourage people to write down their own business plan and their own model and have friends pressure test it as you try to grow. And I think one key important fact to recognize and understand, there is never a perfect time to launch. There's always reasons to be concerned, but those who take risk have great reward. When we launched Shore Capital, we were just 4 young guys. I was the oldest person in the organization at age 31. We rented just a few thousand square feet and we started working. You can read a book on how to swim, but until you actually jump in the pool, nothing will be accomplished. If you turn to page 4, share a little more about Shore Capital. We're a premier microcap private equity firm. We've been doing this for about 12 years and been fortunate to make over 350 control partnerships. We have about 70 team members at Shore Capital, and we've raised about $1.2 billion of capital. As you turn to the next page, you can see our portfolio. We are truly a national organization with a unique 27 companies and about 15,000 employees. We are always seeking to find best-in-class people who share our vision of helping great companies grow from microcap businesses to medium or large-size companies. So you turn to page 6. There are 7 key lessons that I want to share with you today. It's great to learn from experience, but it's better to learn from somebody else's experience. My goal for today is for you to write down 1 to 2 things from what I share and apply it to your life. Here are my 7 key lessons. Win as a team. I firmly believe the job of a leader is to recruit and retain the best talent and put those people in a position to succeed. People excel at what they love to do. So how do we as leaders recruit people and make sure they're in the right spot on the bus? There's an old saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I firmly believe the job of the leader is to go far, not to go alone. And building great teams, it's important to recognize who's in the organization and what they do and how you can enable them to have a lot of success. When I was a young professional, I had a mentor who I would speak with often about success. He would tell me the secrets to his success were being kind and to love what you do. At my young age, in my 20s, I could not hear what he was saying. It was almost like a dog whistle. Only with time can you truly hear this. But I firmly believe the secret to building a great organization is you loving what you do, having people on your team who love what they do. The richest people in the world feel as though they've never worked a day in their life. They love what they do. As we turn to page 9, one of my favorite sayings in business is, it's great to learn from experience, but it's better if you can learn from somebody else's experience. For us, that somebody else's experience is often our board members. Whenever we make an investment, we create a board of directors. It's less for governance, and it's more for focused strategy. The key to building a great team is learning from other people's experiences. We like to build our board of directors like a basketball team. You don't want 5 point guards. You want a point guard, a power forward, a center. Everyone comes with a problem from a different perspective. When building teams and growing organizations, we all make mistakes. What's really important is learning from your mistakes and not making that same mistake twice. At Shore Capital, we have a process we go through that every time we close a new partnership, we look back at the time period prior to forming the partnership and identify what we learned. It's a catalog of mistakes and things we could have done better. It's important as an organization, I believe, is to go through the process of identifying the things that didn't go so well. First of all, I think it allows you to celebrate your own mistakes, things that you want to identify and say, we made this mistake, but we're not going to make that same mistake again. Secondly, I think it's really important to create a culture of saying, it's okay to make a mistake. Let's learn from that and get better. I think the process of going through what we learned, I think creates a lot of value in organizations. When you're launching your venture or building your business, I think it's critical to recognize which vector you're competing on. In my experiences, there are only two business models that last the test of time. Either you're the low-cost option, like Walmart or Southwest, or you offer a differentiated product. Think Netflix or think Apple. When you offer a differentiated product, you only have so many resources. You have to recognize you can't be the best in the world at everything. One thing that I often remember and share with our teams is it's okay to be bad at some things. Just recognize that and put zero resources toward it. A great example of that is a business we all know quite well, Google. Google started about 25 years ago. And back in that time, in that era, it was unheard of to not have a help desk or a hotline that someone could call in with questions. Can you imagine calling Google and saying, I have a problem, I can't find this in the search? Instead of offering a hotline and people being available for phone conversations, they took all their resources and invest into a best-in-class algorithm. Now, today, they have no opportunity for anyone to call them, and they dared to be bad. They intentionally did not invest in a certain resource. They created the best-in-class algorithm. I think it's great for businesses to recognize, differentiate on things where you can win and compete. As you turn to page 12, if you choose to focus on differentiation, it requires a superior value proposition to your customer. What is your value proposition? What is it truly differentiated in the eyes of your customer? On this page, I've laid out an example, I think, of how Uber looked at the competition with taxi cab services. There are 6 or 7 things that the customer really cares about. How do you compete on each and every one of those? And also, how do you dare to be bad at some of those as well? For Short Capital, private equity firms come in many shapes and sizes. We looked at the whole entire spectrum and we said, what is quite common in the private equity space is if you're successful, you raise bigger and bigger funds. And if you're not successful, you wash out. For us, differentiation was dominating a certain part of the market, or the microcap space. As you turn to page 14, our firm likes to invest in what we call barbell niches. Our barbell niche for us is there are several very large players in the industry, and there are thousands of small mom and pops, but not much in the middle. We think the value opportunity is to invest in relatively small businesses, consolidate, aggregate them, and make them into a medium-sized player. That is a differentiation, I believe, because very few people focus on this part of the market. In my experiences, the most valuable assets in business are a predictable asset. How do you create a predictable asset? Process. It's important to invest in the same processes and procedures time and time again and focus on improving those processes. I think it's critical to codify your processes and make it part of the DNA of your organization. When you're building in your organization, I firmly believe you have the 2 types of processes, business building processes and cultural processes. An example of a cultural process for us at Short Capital is every time we form a new partnership, we add a logo of the company to a miniature Stanley Cup. We have a miniature Stanley Cup, we take it out in the town, and we celebrate our successes. Some of the most important decisions that teams make is what not to do. One of the best baseball players of all time was Ted Williams, and arguably the best pure hitter. He's the last player to hit over 400. After he retired, he wrote a book called The Science of Hitting. The book contained a very interesting picture of himself at bat with the strike zone broken into 77 individual squares. Williams understood that an important aspect of improving the odds of making good choices is the ability to distinguish between decisions within our circle of competence and those on the outside. If he waited for a pitch that was really in his sweet spot, he would get hit about 40% of the time. But if he was impatient and swung at something on the lower corners, he would only get a hit 23 or 25% of the time. Williams grasped that the way we make our decision process matters. The first step in baseball to getting a good hit is to wait for a good pitch. A good hitter can hit a pitch that is over the plate 3 times better than a great hitter can hit a questionable ball that's in a tough spot on the plate. Waiting for a good pitch required knowing which pitches offered him the highest odds of success and the patience and discipline necessary to wait for them. These factors would make the difference between a trip to the minor leagues or his Hall of Fame career. We're not all baseball players, but we all have zones that where the odds are tilted in our favor. This is called our circle of competence. This is an area which we are capable of understanding with a high degree of probability the relevant variables and the likely outcomes. Making decisions within our circle improves the odds we'll do well. This is our sweet spot, and it's different for all of us. The problem is everyone wants to have a large circle. We think bigger is better. The size of the circle is not what's most important. Knowing the boundaries of our circle of competence is more important than its size. As a leader, one of the most important understandings is knowing yourself and your own zone of competency. In business, it's critical to have a plan. At Shore Capital, we call it our Playbook, or a way we add value to our portfolio companies. When we form partnerships, the very first meeting with anybody is the slide you see here on page 19. It shows a robust management structure, how we think about metrics and data, and business development leadership. When you're forming partnerships or bringing people into your organization, I think it's critical to develop a strategic planning process, set expectations, and clarity. As we turn to page 20, we think of companies in 4 phases: startup, growth, professionalize, and scale. Within the organization, we think of the letter N as the CEO. The CEO's direct reports are N-1, and the direct reports are N-2. You can see on this page the different scaling phases of boarding organization. When we're building businesses, the N+1 is the board of directors. We think it's critical when going from the growth stage to the professionalized stage, having people on the board of directors who have been there and done that. It's almost like taking a varsity athlete and putting on the JV team. This part of the process, we think, allows the CEO and the team to grow by relying upon others' experiences, as we have previously talked about. One of the more common phrases you hear in our organization is, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. When I was just a kid, I was in high school, I read a business article that tracked a longitudinal study of those who wrote their goals down and those who did not. It was amazing me to learn that at the completion of that study, the wide variance in professional success of those who actually write their goals down and those who are not. After reading that article and understanding the impact, it's been a core tenet to our organization to focus on writing goals down and measuring them on a quarterly basis. Let me give you a very simple example. I've seen this time and time again. We partner with a new business, a CFO. The business is previously on QuickBooks. We have a goal for the year: convert from QuickBooks to a more advanced accounting software system. Seems like a simple enough goal, but we're actually writing it down and breaking into 4 parts. At the end of the first quarter, the goal is evaluate 3 software systems and select one. End of the second quarter, have the contract signed and data inputted. End of the third quarter, have both systems running simultaneously. And end of the fourth quarter, completely move over. I can't tell you how often that we were sitting there in the middle of the first quarter, February 15th, doing a goals check-in, and the whole team looks at the CFO and says, how are we progressing on the goals? And they look back and they go, oh, I haven't started at all. When that happens, they know they're accountable to their team. They're able to look at the piece of paper and say, it is not unreasonable for me to make half dozen phone calls, pick 3 potential new partners, and evaluate it. By having it written down and agreed upon in advance, I think it creates a lot of success. My wife sometimes tells me, you guys sure are data nerds. I take it as a compliment. I'm not sure if that's how she means it all the time, but I think it's critical when running a business to be able to move from line of sight management to management by metrics. We partnered with a business in Atlanta probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and the founder, a great person, has grown tremendously. He had 8 locations. People would drive from location to location. He knew everyone involved. He knew if business was going well by stopping by and seeing people with his own 2 eyes. As we've grown now to over 100 locations, he's come to us and he says, I finally understand by having tools and dials to be able to manage by the numbers as opposed to by management by walking around. That type of growth that we've seen in our businesses, having data and being able to make gut decisions, is a part of business, but also be able to manage by the numbers and metrics, I think allows you to scale in a more appropriate way. My dad taught me at a young age, you get one reputation, use it wisely. Let me tell you about a friend and business partner that I believe uses his reputation incredibly wisely. Stan Beavis is the founder of Fast Pace Urgent Care, the largest urgent care company in the Southeast. We had the good fortune of partnering with Stan in 2012. I think if Stan was here today, he would tell you, unfortunately, his father is not with us because his father had to choose between a good job and good regular health care. As a result, Stan built a business that would offer future people the opportunity to have good regular health care and still have your job. Stan built a reputation for standing for the rank and file in the rural communities and was steadfast in his support. It was incredibly important to him to build a business model that for the common employee in these rural communities had a place to go for high quality medical health care. Stan had a reputation for high quality, and it married with Shore Capital's values of good medicine is good business. It's what drew us together. We wear our core values on our sleeves. They're in every conference room and posted all over our office. Core values drive culture. What I love about culture, it is truly a democracy. Every employee gets one vote in how they behave and act daily. A leader can influence and incentivize certain behaviors, but culture is truly a democracy. All the things you do every day Focusing on getting better 1% at a time lead to results. Our firm has been humbled to be recognized as the top 1% of all investors based on returns, the most active investor as measured by number of completed partnerships, and being one of the top founder-friendly organizations in the world. These accolades are the result of a team of people unified on keeping their head down and executing and living a culture. By now, I believe you can tell I'm quite the sports fan. I'll leave you with one more sports analogy. One of the reasons why I love my job is the scoreboard. Investors all know who won and who lost. People give us capital to invest on their behalf, and at the end of the day, there's dollars that come back. What's really fun about investing and building great businesses is the competitive nature and doing your best day in, day out. While the game's being played, you can declare you're up or you're down, wherever it may be, but at some point, the returns come to fruition, and they can compare to everybody else in the community who they've given dollars to. Part of being part of a great team is recognizing you're always competing, always trying to get better, and we at Shore Capital are very focused on building great businesses. I think it's key for every entrepreneur to know their why. For me, I founded Shore Capital in 2009. I'm gonna tell you about a story that happened just a few years later. We made an investment in a business called Florida Autism Centers based in Orlando, Florida. We were down there for a board meeting, and the CEO said, we opened a brand new location, let's go check it out. So the board went over to the new location in St. Mary's, Florida. We walked through the facility, and as we were walking out, a young man was walking in. He stopped us and said, you gentlemen and ladies in suits don't belong here on a Tuesday, middle of the day. What's going on? We said, sir, we're the board of directors of the company. And he said, I want to talk to you. For a second, my heart dropped. And I said, okay, what do we do wrong here? And he said, thank you. I want to thank you. He said, I have 4 boys. My first 3 boys came out middle of the fairway, nothing but what I always hoped they would be. My 4th child, love him to death. And he was different though, and I didn't know what was quite different. My wife and I, we took him to see a physician, and he got a diagnosis of having autism. He said, my head was spinning. I didn't know what to do. He said, literally on that drive home, I was driving back home and I saw a sign that said, coming soon, Florida Autism Centers. It felt like someone was talking to me from above. He said, a couple days later, I came in, signed up the paperwork, and now for 6 months, my son's been coming to your clinic and getting better day by day. He said, I can't tell you the improvement of quality of life for my son and for our whole entire family. He doesn't antagonize his brothers anymore. He's able to look me in the eye. He's able to eat with a fork in a way they never could before. He said, you guys have made an immense impact on my son's life, and thank you for that. And for me, that is my why. I believe we are able to take capital and money from great investors. They put them with us. We come up with a thesis. We find locations to move and build businesses in, open those up so we can serve people like that gentleman. When we do that, we make money for our investors. We help people in the community, and I love that. That's my why, and that's why at Shore Capital we intend to keep doing the same things day in and day out. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you listening. Thank you.